Hey everyone, for this Rogue Thursday video, I have for you guys Festival Lead, and trust me, this deck is a combo heavy rogue deck that's super fun to play, and in this video I'm going to break down the full list, the core strategy, and show you some of the ranked matches that I had with it, so you can see just how powerful it really is, and how the deck works. Now, and here's the list that I've been testing. The game plan is super simple, but incredibly strong. You just swing twice in one turn with Dipplin, and you take multiple prizes. That's it. Now, and to get that game plan running, our core cards are Dipplin himself. It's our main attacker, and with a full bench of Pokemon, it hits for 100 damage, which may not seem like a lot, but with his ability Festival Lead, if you have Festival Grounds or Stadium on the field, then he gets to attack 2 times in a single turn, allowing you to be able to take multiple prizes in a single turn. Now, our second key card is Thwackey. With its ability, as long as we have a Festival Lead Pokemon in the active, like Dipplin, then he can search any card in our deck, and you generally want to get 2 of them on the field, so you're getting 2 searches every single turn. Now, of course, we can't stop without talking about Festival Grounds. It's needed for Dipplin to attack twice, and it can come in clutch against donk decks and other decks that have a lot of special conditions, because it does stop those from being able to affect your Pokemon. Now, and I also want to highlight a few tech cards as well. I'm running Picnic Basket because it helps against Dragapult and Monkey Dory matchups, because it makes it so it's a little bit harder for them to take multiple prizes. Even though we do have low HP Pokemon, it can come in clutch. I'm also running a Turo because it lets us pick up our Ursaluna and our Fez as well, because sometimes those could be liabilities and we just want to get them off the field. Now, and you can swap either of those for another Night Stretcher if you want, if you feel that you don't need the healing or you don't need a way of picking up your 2 prizers. Now, and these do matter in a tournament setting, so make sure that you go with what you feel is right as far as those choices. And before we get into the games, I just want to ask you all to hit that like button and subscribe for more. I post new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And with that being said, on to game number 1. Alright, so game number 1 is against Raging Bolt. Now, our hand is pretty okay here. We did get double Bug Catcher. We were looking for a Grookey, but we at least get double Applin down, so we can get a Dipplin down. With this Arven, we can find our Ace Spec next turn, and that is going to allow us to be able to get down a Grookey so we can get it for the following turn. But overall, this is not a terrible hand. We already have our combo in hand of the Festival Grounds plus the Dipplin and a Grass Energy. We attached last turn to the bench one just in case they do knock out our Applin in the active. So here we see that they are going through their usual Raging Bolt plays, but this isn't your typical Raging Bolt deck. This is actually the Owless version. So they didn't play any of the Noctowls, or not that I see. So here we top deck into another Arven. We're looking through our deck. We see that we actually prized our Ace Spec, so we're going to have to pivot. We are going to just grab that lone copy of Buddy-Buddy Poffin real quick. Well, we do have an extra copy in the deck too, but we just need the Buddy-Buddy Poffin so we can start getting some things down. We're not going to be able to get a knockout this turn. If we did have the trolley in our deck, we would have been able to get a knockout this turn on that Raging Bolt because we had the Brave Bangle to go with it. Here, though, we are still going to put on that Brave Bangle. We're able to do a total of 180 damage this turn, so that means that we can actually just hit it once next turn and be able to knock it out, and then be able to start putting damage on another of their EX Pokemon as well. Generally, Brave Bangle is going to be how you're going to win this matchup because most of their Pokemon are at 210 to 240 HP. With this being the Owless version, though, they do run things like the Ancient Booster. So here we top deck another Thwackey, so that helps later on. So with this Arven, we're just going to get a Bug Catching Sec and a Brave Bangle. That way then we can do another big swing if need be. And then luckily this bug catching set actually finds a Applin. We could have went with the safer route of the Buddy-Buddy Poffin, but we did just want to get the bug catching set, see if we can actually get another Dipplin, so we make sure that we have access to everything that we need next turn. Here we also just got the Fez because they did take a knockout last turn. We get to draw 3 cards. It is a liability on our bench, but it is also one more benched Pokemon for our attacks as well. And there we actually get the Precious Trolley and another Grookey, so we are pretty much set up. You do want to get 2 Thwackeys going because you are kind of a 3-card combo. You need to find Grass Energy, you need a Dipplin, and you need the Festival Grounds in order to be able to do your full combo of swinging twice. So you need all 3 of those, and it can be a little bit difficult to get those. This deck is very much a high risk, high reward deck as well, so just letting you know. As for our opponents, they are getting everything set up. They're actually playing the Brave Bangle. So now we have to hit for 290. We do have ways of doing that though. So if they don't get rid of our stadium here, then we are pretty much set up to get another knockout this next turn, depending on what we have left in our deck. So here they do take the knockout. We are just going to put up that Cleffa real quick because we do plan on just drawing with this Fez. I'm going to put that Brave Bangle that we top decked onto our Fez as well. It does make it harder for the Raging Bolt player to knock it out because now they require 1 more energy, but because they already have 3 Teal Mask, I guess it doesn't really matter either, but it can be helpful. So here we do just do a bunch of drawing. We did our sequence correctly, so that way then we had the Precious Trolley get out 1 more Applin so we could draw into better cards. Here though, we Arven for a Night Stretcher, just so we can get a Dipplin. That way then we can actually start swinging. So if we would have just found a Dipplin naturally from those draws, we actually could have knocked out this Raging Bolt this turn. And here we are just going to grab another Dipplin with our Thwackey, and that's going to allow us to guarantee next turn be able to swing again. And then this turn we actually just did 260 damage, which isn't bad at all. So here they are just going to start doing their little Teal Mask shenanigans. They do another energy retrieval. That way then they can go and use Teal Mask some more. They're constantly drawing cards. As for our game plan, we're expecting our Dipplin on our field to get knocked out. The worst thing that they could have is they could have a boss's orders and get rid of the Fez, take 2 prizes, and then we basically have to get a knockout for each turn for the next 2 turns and hope that that's enough to win the game. But here they use Sadas instead, so we know that there's no boss. They could still have things like the, not Counter Catcher, but the other one that's a coin flip, so they still could have used that. Instead, they actually just manually retreat their Raging Bolt, and then they use Pokégear to find another Sadas. They're down to 9 cards left in deck too, so that is something that they need to be worried about. They do take the knockout, and here we are just going to promote the Applin because we already have the Dipplin in hand. We are just going to use the Sacred Ash as well. We're going to put all of our Applins and Dipplins that were in the discard back into the deck. And then we do hit them with the Iono, putting them down to a 3-card hand, us to a 4. We find an Applin, which is huge. And then here we get to draw 3. This is a mistake. I should have used a Thwackey to get our Counter Catcher out of our deck first. Use that, bossed up the injured Raging Bolt, and then we would have been able to then play our Stadium. They would have gotten rid of something else, like one of their Teal Masks, and we would have been able to get a knockout on that and put more damage on whatever else they bring up. making it much easier for us to actually get a knockout. Here, instead, we have to pivot. We're still going to use the counter catcher, and we're just going to bring up one of the teal masks instead. And that does allow us to still get 2 prizes this turn, but we definitely made a mistake there. Luckily, off of our prizes, we actually find Boss plus Festival Grounds, so if they have another stadium bump, we at least have another stadium to go over it. And the boss can guarantee us the win next turn, depending on what, if we have another Brave Bangle left in our deck. Here, they did hit us with a Iono, which is fine. We have double Thwackey, but we are going to have to find another Dipplin in order to do so, so it can be very dangerous for us. They actually have the Prime Catcher as well, so they bring up the Fez. They manually retreat their teal mask, so they're going to knock out the Fez this turn. It is going to take a lot of their energy, and they will be able to get 2 prize cards, so they'll be down to 1, meaning I have to win the game this turn. But they did leave me my Dipplin by doing that, so we don't have to worry about getting another Dipplin. Here we do Bug Catching Set just to thin our deck a little bit. And then here we are just going to get the Ursaluna instead, and then use the other Thwackey, which can grab us the boss. And now we can just boss up any of the teal masks, manually retreat this Dipplin, and then we will be able to swing with the Ursaluna. Alright, so game number 2 is against, so far, what looks like your standard everyday meta deck. They all seem to be running the Latias and the Fez. And I will say that for this game, you don't really see exactly what our opponent's playing for like the first 5 turns. They kind of had a bricked hand. We kind of had a bad start as well. So here they do use that Ultra Ball. They find a Badoo. They get that down. They're going to retreat into it and Itchy Pollen lock us after using Iono. So here we get new 6 cards, which our hand is looking really great here if we weren't getting Itchy Pollen right now. So now we have to top deck a Dipplin. We don't. So we do get to at least get down another Applin and another Grookey, and then we are going to be able to draw 3 cards. We still don't see a Dipplin, so this is pretty bad for us. Depending on how long they decide to Itchy Pollen us, is going to be dangerous. We could just start swinging with like an Applin, but we don't really want to do that and just constantly risk our Applins being knocked out early without actually taking prizes, because then we have to use our Ash as soon as we find it, and it's just going to be rough depending on whatever deck this is. So here we do find another Grookey, we get that down. We can just boss up their Fez, and we do that just so we can draw a card. So we are down 1 boss now. We do have the Pal Pad in hand, so if at any point they stop Itchy Pollening us, we can actually put back the boss and be able to use it later on in the game. So here they did knock out our Cleffa, so they get the first prize of the game, and we actually top deck into a research, and we are very desperate right now, so we are just going to research. We finally find a Dipplin. Now we also have the Festival Grounds too, so we can actually just get our game plan started. The bad thing is that it came at the cost of our Pal Pad and double boss. So the only other gust effect that we have left in our deck is the counter catcher. That is something that we could get, but I just want to get Arven to make sure that we have ways of getting to what we need next turn, just in case. We also could have just gotten another Dipplin just to make sure that we have all 3 ready. But here we just take that knockout. We get to put a bunch of damage on the Fez. The other thing that I could have done, well, no, we were Itchy Pollen locked, so I couldn't have gotten the counter catcher for that. So yeah, this was the best play that we could possibly do. They do have a Monkey Dory, so they are able to just start moving damage around. And now we see exactly what deck this is. It is a Dragapult deck. So finally they get 2 Dreepies down, and now it is a race. So they also play their A-Spec Neo Upper Energy on one of the Dreepies. But we are at 5 prizes, they're at 5 prizes, and they find their second Badoo, but instead of going with the Badoo, they're just throwing up the monkey instead. So I don't know exactly why they did that. I mean, it is going to take both swings to knock it out, but at the same time, I personally wouldn't have made that decision, because now we can use our items this turn. So here we are just going to activate this first Thwackey. We're going to get another Dipplin, get that down. Makes it harder for their Dragapults to be able to take multiple prizes in a turn if we have our Dipplins down, because those are 80 HP. We do need to knock out this Monkey Dory, because that's a easy way for them to take prizes. And we want to hold on to this Brave Bangle and this Kieran, because that as a combo can allow us to one-shot a Dragapult EX with a Dipplin. So here we do get a prize. They throw up the Badoo, and we're down to only needing 4 prizes left. But again, we're down 2 bosses. We only run 2 bosses, so it's still a difficult matchup for us. They're having all the time in the world to be able to do whatever they need. They do counter catcher up our Shaymin, which is just so they can try to get us to have that in the active for a turn, which seems to be working here. They play down the Team Rocket's Watchtower. Luckily, when they Iono'd us, we actually got a Air Balloon. Either that or a Grass, like what we had in the previous hand, would have been enough to be able to get the Shaymin out of the active. But as long as we found one way to do it and they didn't have the jamming tower, then that's all that we needed. So here they are just doing some extra draws with that Fez. They do get the monkey down again, and they do use another Ultra Ball, which is most likely going to find them a Dragapult for next turn. So that way then they don't have to worry about finding one, they just already have it. Instead, they actually get a Howlucha, so it looks like they're trying to set up for a multi-prize turn. They do just use the Itchy Pollen there. We find a Applin, and this is going to be a little bit risky. So here we are just going to have to Air Balloon, and then we are going to be able to use the Thwackeys to do 2 searches this turn. We're going to need to set up for everything. So first we need Festival Ground, that way then we can actually swing twice. And then here we are going to have to grab we could grab the Arven, or we could just grab the Kieran now, or the Black Belt Trainer. But that is kind of signifying that we have those in the deck. Instead, we just grab the Brave Bangle, so that way then we can put that on one of our Pokemon next turn and be able to actually get the knockout still. So there we do take a prize. We're down to only 3 prize cards remaining, and we get to put 100 damage on their Latias. So if at any point in time we're able to knock that out as well, that would be real nice. They do have the monkey, but they need to find a Luminous Energy to put on it. They find that, and then they put down the Dragapult. So now their game plan is all online. So here, they're going to be knocking out the active Applin most likely, and then they have 30 damage that they can move around, so they could throw that on another Dipplin and be able to knock out 2 Dipplins in one turn. Instead, they're just throwing it on the Shaymin. That way then they can throw some damage over there and then throw a little bit of damage on a Dipplin as well and still get 2 knockout. So with our hand being what it is, the optimal play here would be to put down the Applin and then try to hit a Grookey or another Applin with this bug catching set and hope that they don't just get all the knockouts that they need with that. We're really hoping for another Grookey with it because we need something with a lot of HP so they can't just take multiple knockouts next turn. Here they do get 2 knockouts. They go down to only 3 prize cards remaining. We throw up the Dipplin, but I make a huge mistake here. I bench the Fez. I know that he has Howlucha in hand, but I bench the Fez because I forget about the Howlucha, and I'm like, okay, so if he wants to, or I'm just like, okay, let me just get these 3 draws, see what we find, so we can see exactly what we got to search for. We search out the Black Belt training, we find another Grass Energy as well, so we can actually get that down on the Applin. We are just doing the combo to knock out the Dragapult in 1 turn. And then as I'm taking out this knockout and I'm taking my prizes, that's when it hits me, oh no, I benched my Fez when I really didn't need to. And I just now gave my opponent an easy way of winning the game. So here they do just put up that Dragapult or Dracloak. They do just bench the Howlucha, which means that they can put 10 damage down on the Fez and then on something else that doesn't matter because they can just knock out the Dipplin for game. Or yeah, they can just knock out the Applin for game, not the Dipplin. And what they need now is a pretty steep combination of cards. So here they have the counter catcher, so they're able to bring the Fez up. So that was step 1. Step 2, they need a Psychic Energy. So usually with lists like this, especially since we see a Duskull now, they are running just Luminous Energy for their Psychic, meaning they need to find one of the last 2 Luminous Energy, which they find it, and now they need to find a Night Stretcher or a way to get to another Dragapult. So here they are just doing monkey damage. They're moving it around because they do have more damage on both Fez and on Latias. So they take a knockout right there on our Applin, putting them down to only 2 prizes remaining. Just seeing if they can find something off of their prize cards, and then they get to do the Fez to draw 3 and the Dracloak, and they found the Night Stretcher. So if we didn't bench the Fez, then they would have had to use both Monkey and we would have had to have a single Applin, which we did, and they would have been able to still get 3 prizes, but they would have had to also counter catcher up the healthy Dipplin as well to be able to get all of the damage around, hopefully, to get those 3 prizes. Would have been harder. Alright, so game number 3, and we see a Murkrow with United Wings. So we know that this is that Poison United Wings deck, which we are pretty favored into, I gotta say. Solely because they rely on their poison package to take a brunt of the knockouts early while they're getting a whole bunch of their United Wings Pokemon into the discard. But we run Festival Grounds as a necessary part of our deck, so it's that much harder because that heals status conditions from Pokemon that have energy attached to them. Our turn, we were able to set up real well. And for this turn for them, they are able to get through a lot of their deck. They find their Brute Bonnet right there. They already have an energy attached to their Murkrow. And they have another United Wings on the field as well. But they do use this Squawk ability. And they're just cycling through their deck. They're making sure that they're getting a lot of their United Wings into the bin. They get rid of another extra boot or ancient booster. And then here they are just going to poison real quick. And then they're just going to use the Murkrow's first attack to be able to switch itself out. And they're doing this because we have the Fez on the field. That way then our Applin gets knocked out at the start of our turn with the poison. So we don't get to draw 3. But that's fine, you know, we top deck the Festival Grounds, so here with the Thwackey, we can actually search out a second Thwackey, which is going to allow us to be able to search out we could get a bug catching set, hope to get lucky and get the energy for it, or we could just search out a grass energy right away, and that would let us be able to do everything that we need to be able to swing this turn. So we're just going for the safer play. We do have this Cleffa, so we can still put that down too. It is a free retreater, so if we need to, we can go into that at some point as well. And here we do just knock out their first Pokemon, taking the prize. So our prize was a Grass Energy, which is really nice because now we don't have to search for that next turn for our Dipplin in case they knock the one in the active out. For some reason they put the Brute Bonnet up, but now we see that they have the Petrunt EX, so now it makes more sense. But with Festival Grounds on the field, their Petrunt's not going to be able to poison, and their Brute Bonnet especially isn't going to be able to poison. And here, I don't think that my opponent has ever played against a Festival lead deck, so they didn't realize that. But ultimately, it didn't matter because they don't really play too many stadiums in that United Wings deck from what I know. And with them already playing their first stadium early, I mean, that's just one less that we have to worry about, and we play 4 of ours. So here they do take that knockout. We are going to be able to draw with the Fez, but first we're going to use a single Thwackey. This is going to get us the research. We don't mind just researching away our hand. The Turo going away is pretty bad, but at the same time, we can just use a Pal Pad and then search out the Turo later. And just to give it a little extra safety, we found that Bravery Charm, so we're going to be able to put that on there. Here we do get down another Applin. We have a Dipplin in hand for next turn to be able to evolve our Applin into that, because most likely they will be knocking out this Dipplin in the active. So with this final Thwackey, we're just going to search out the Sacred Ash, because we can use that next turn to put back our Applins and our Dipplins. And this is generally around the time that you kind of want to do that. You want to make sure that you go through at least 2 Dipplins getting knocked out before you Sacred Ash, so you can guarantee that you have enough for the rest of the game. Here, they are choosing a new active. We were able to one-shot that, so we still have 1 more attack in the chamber. And they throw up another Murkrow, so we actually get to knock that one out too. So I think that they didn't realize that if we knocked out on the first attack that we would still be able to swing again as well. But, you know, everyone has to go through these experiences. I remember the first time playing against Festival Lead and I had that happen to me as well, and I was like, oh, okay, so it works even if my Pokemon gets knocked out. Cool. But overall, here they have a Nest Ball, and I'm wondering exactly what they're going to get. There's nothing that I'm too afraid of. I mean, if they were playing like the Poison Roaring Moon, then I would be a little bit more afraid because they can actually get rid of our stadium every time that they attack. But here, not so much. Here they are just doing more searching. They use their Ultra Ball to find another United Wings, so they can just discard that with the research. And then they finally find their A-Spec, Brilliant Blender, so now they're able to get rid of more of their United Wings, making it do a lot more damage. And they get rid of some of the fluff cards that they really don't need either. And then they finally find a Stadium Bump, but that is completely fine because we have double Thwackey, so we can easily find a Stadium off of one of those next turn because we already have the Dipplin, and we're still just going to be completely fine. Here, they are able to just do all of the poison, and they do the retreat attacks, so that way then the poison actually knocks out our Dipplin at the start of our turn, so we can't get 3 draws off of Fez, but that's completely fine. Here we are going to Sacred Ash first, get all of those Applins and the Dipplins back into the deck. This is everything that we need, and then we are just going to Arven this turn. It allows us to get a Buddy-Buddy Poffin. I was debating about getting the Bug Catching set instead, but we're just going to get the Buddy-Buddy Poffin. Guarantees us an Applin down, and then here we are going to be able to search out a Festival Grounds, sorry, and be able to Stadium Bump that. Now we can swing twice, and then we are just going to grab a Dipplin. We see that we have 2 energy left in the deck too, so we are going to have to grab one of those next turn. And here we are just going to be able to swing for 100, knock something out, take a prize. We're down to 2 prizes remaining, and now they have to throw something else up here, and we will be able to do a lot of damage to it. So here, they throw up their Petron EX, we deal 100, so now it's within 1-shot range next turn. And then they find another stadium bump, so that's 3 of their stadiums now. And they do play the Mochi as well, and they get down another United Wings attacker. And this does allow them to do enough damage that they can knock out the Dipplin with their retreat attack and be able to knock out our Dipplin at the start of our turn with the poison as well. And they just throw the Wattrel up this time to be able to take a hit because we still need 2 prizes. But what they don't know is that we have the Dipplin, which they did know. We top deck the Grass Energy, which means we can just use this Pokégear, see if we find the boss, which we did. And that is pretty much game, because now we just get this other Applin down. We are just doing our surges just in case I was wrong on my math. And we did need that Festival Ground as well. Or no, we didn't even need the Festival Ground, just 1 attack was enough. So we boss up and we get rid of the Petron EX for game. So overall, Festival Lead is a fun 1-prizer rogue deck. It does really well into decks like Zoroark, Charizard, and Grimmsnarl since they're weak to it. And the only deck that you really have to watch out for is decks like Dragapult that can do a lot of spread. Now, and if you're looking for a deck that's super fun to play, this is definitely one that you should try. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more Meta Mondays, Rogue Thursdays, and Tournament Report Saturdays. Also, let me know in the comments, would you play Festival Lead at your next tournament?